If you have been researching cash value life insurance policies like an IUL and you're having a hard time just figuring out how much money is going to go towards the insurance versus the cash, in this video, I'm going to walk you through why there is no cut and dry answer to that and why you are going to have to sit and talk with somebody to build out an IUL to get the answer to that. And also why you keep hearing about structure and how the structure actually impacts the question that you have of how much is my insurance going to cost versus how much am I going to make. If this is your first time here, welcome. My name is Nobu Musakiwa. I help working professionals 40 and over save smarter and pay less taxes by leveraging the benefits of cash value life insurance. If you want to work with me, the link to do so is in the description. Now I'm going to share some numbers and specifics from a few policy designs, but before we get into that, we need to first level set on just two core tenets of an IUL. Tenet number one that's important to understand in order for us to get an understanding of this is just that an IUL is built from scratch. Think of building a house where you go and all you see is land, right? That is an IUL. When you're working with an insurance agent or an insurance broker like myself, when we're going to build out your IUL, if it is a true custom designed IUL, there is absolutely nothing there. We have to go in and build everything out step by step, and that is going to be built out depending on what you are trying to accomplish. If we're thinking about this the same as building a house, right? We're going in and there is land. Your agent or your broker is your architect. So we are going to do a design for you, and that design is going to go to the insurance carrier, and that design has to be approved. Same way as if you're building a house, you have to get an architect. You're going to tell the architect what your vision is, what your dream is, how many bedrooms you want, if you want a pool. The architect is going to put a design together for you. Then that goes to the city, and the city says yes or no. And once they say yes or no, then you go ahead and you start putting your house together. A lot of times when there's question marks, people forget that an IUL is designed from scratch for every single person. So there is no one size fits all answer. It's going to be dependent based on our land, based on your vision, and based on the design. Tenet number two is if we are using this IUL in order for us to leverage, to save on taxes and have our money grow faster, when we're designing it, we are not putting all our money towards insurance, right? We are overpaying for insurance. So if our insurance is $200, we're going to put $1,000, which means that we have more money going into our personal bank. And now the part that can be confusing is how do we determine what the cost of insurance is? That's going to be determined by how much insurance that you are getting, which is going to be determined by your design, right? And as we are building this policy out, there are certain rules that we need to follow and need to adhere that's based on IRS guidelines that are going to determine what our minimum is and our maximum is and how much insurance you have to get in order to make this happen. And that's where this part of the structure is going to come up, because there is no one size fits all structure for an IUL. Similar to if we have a neighborhood of brand new houses, every single house is not going to be the same, right? Even though you might have the same amount of land allotted to you, what your house actually looks like depends on what you told your architect, what your dream is, what your budget is, and what the city approved in order for you to be able to actually build on that piece of land. So if you're working with someone and you're asking questions about an IUL and they're telling you that it depends, they're not being a jerk. It really does depend on your age, what you're trying to do, what your budget is, what insurance carrier you end up going with. All those things determine what your IUL actually looks like and what your potential outcomes are from that policy. Now, the main question mark that prompted this video was a question of, okay, how much money is going towards insurance versus how much is going towards my cash? I'm going to walk through some basic numbers on 3 different policy designs. Now, we're going to assume that this is a male, 40 years old, in good health, and the budget is $1,000 a month. Are we tracking? Cool. We're going to start with looking at a foundation design. This is a pretty standard design. Most agents that focus on IULs know how to do this. And the goal of this type of design is to ensure that by the time retirement comes, there is a large amount of cash that is available that can then be used as supplemental income. And so we're putting in as much as possible over a long period of time to make sure that our cash bucket, our personal bank, at the time that we start taking money out, is pretty significant. So with this particular design, this gentleman, 40 years old, will be putting in $1,000 a month for 25 years. The permanent life insurance for this type of design at the time that this policy starts would be about $620,000. The initial cost of that insurance will be about $3,500. So out of $12,000 a year, $3,500 will be the cost of insurance, and then all the rest of the money will be going into the cash bucket, into the personal bank. That's the amount that's going to be growing interest based on stock market performance. And that's going to be the cash where whenever he starts to pull cash out, those funds are not subject to income tax, they're not subject to capital gains tax. In this particular design, in year one, how much you can actually take out of the policy is $0. So you will not be able to take cash out of this policy in year one. There is money that is getting interest, but he does not have access to take cash out. Let's also look at year five. At year five, he'll have access to about $37,000 in cash that he can take out. And then at age 65, $615,000. Well, I want to just add a caveat that these are all hypotheticals. These numbers are not guaranteed numbers. The actual cash available will be dependent on the actual stock market performance, because that is what determines the interest in these accounts, right? And so with this foundation design, over that 25 years, you would have put in $312,000, and the amount available at age 65 would be $615,000. But the main question is like, what's the cash versus the insurance? So about with this foundation design, about $3,500 going towards the insurance, and then the rest going towards cash. Now, this design is great for someone who wants to have as much funds as possible later down the line, and they don't mind putting in money over a long period of time and is comfortable that they can consistently do that over a long period of time. Design number 2 is an accelerated design. Again, still male, 40 years old, putting $1,000 every single month as a budget. But this time, the insurance amount is $370,000. And the timeline to pay into this is 10 years. So after 10 years, they will not be able to put any more cash in. And the reason why that is, the insurance amount determines how much you can put in and 10 years. And once they hit that 10-year mark, they will not be able to put anything into this policy for another 7 years. And this is just based on IRS rules, where after you've hit a certain number based on what your insurance amount, you cannot go over that. Otherwise, you will be taxed. So just based on those rules, the max that can be put into this policy initially is $115,000 over that 10-year period. Now, the cost of insurance, which is a big question, right, would be about $2,000 in this case. So remember, case number 1, we still were putting $1,000 a month, $12,000 total for the year. Cost of insurance was $3,500. In this case, we are still putting $1,000 a month, but instead our cost of insurance is $2,000, $190. And the major reason why there is a difference in that is the structure. How much is putting in per month is still the same. The structure, though, is different based on the goals. With this accelerator structure, cash in year 1 will be $2,285 that you actually can take out. Year 5, there'll be $48,000 you'll be able to take out, and at age 65, $342,000. Total amount put into the policy, $115K, and hypothetical amount to take out at age 65, $342,000. So the major difference in this is that the commitment, the time commitment to put money into this is a short amount of time. So it's 10 years, but because you're putting in less money, then there also is less in total available for you to take out at those later years. And so this is perfect for someone who wants some extra cash for later, but also doesn't want to be locked into a payment for 20 years, right? So if you ask somebody, can you put $1,000 a month for 25 years? Some people may not be comfortable for that, but they might be comfortable with $1,000 for 10 years and then just letting that sit and write out and have cash available for later. An important thing to know when I'm talking about the cost of insurance, this cost of insurance is specific to this particular company that I looked at these numbers in. It is specific to the state that this person lives in. It is specific to them being a male, being 40, being in good health, right? Also, the numbers are specific to how I designed this policy. And there are a myriad of ways to design policies. And so if you talk to someone and this is not the number that they gave you, if they're not looking at the specific company, if it's not designed the specific way that I designed it, then that's where you're going to have a discrepancy in different numbers, right? This is just to give you an idea and get your head rolling. But in order for you to understand what your options are for you, you would need to actually talk to somebody, get something designed, and more importantly, actually get it approved, because what your actual cost of insurance is going to be is only going to be determined once the insurance carrier has actually processed your application. When you're looking at illustrations, when you're getting hypotheticals, it's just an estimate based on best case scenario, but your actual cost of insurance depends on what you actually get approved for. Looking at our next design, this is a bridge design. Still 40-year-old male in good health, $1,000 a month is the budget. I'm keeping it the same amount per month on purpose so that you can see like the difference in performance of the policy depending on what the structure looks like. So with this bridge design, the insurance amount, the permanent insurance is $183,000. And the timeline to pay this $8,000 a month is 8 years. And in that 8 years, he would have put in about $92,000. In this case, the cost of insurance is around $2,000 again, same as the 10-year policy. Now you might be wondering, well, why is this around the same price as the other policy when there's actually less insurance in this? And now with this particular design, there is the permanent insurance on this. And at the end of that 10-year period, this person has the ability to open another IUL for $180,000 without having to go through any underwriting. So essentially they are guaranteed to get another policy, even if they have had events that would normally deem them ineligible to get a policy. So if they get a heart attack, stroke, cancer, with this particular bridge policy, it doesn't matter. They will still be able to open another IUL for $180K, regardless of what's going on with them medically. So essentially this person will max this out in 8 years. At the end of that 8 years, go ahead and open up another policy, guaranteed, and be able to do the same thing on repeat without having to worry about not being able to qualify later down the line. Now with this design, the cost of insurance is still $2,000, just like the 10-year option. However, with this policy on year 1, they'll have $6,000 that they can take out of the policy. So again, we are still putting the same $12,000 every single year, but with this option, they can take out half of that on year 1, in addition to having a guarantee of being able to get another policy later down the line without having to get an application in. And then on year 5, $55,000 available to take out. Age 65, $305,000 available to take out. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of every single design that you can do with an IUL. These are just the most common 3 that I work with my clients, just based on where they're at. Over 40, looking to maximize their money, looking to have extra income down the line. By the way, link is in the comments to work with me. I'm going to do a more in-depth video with each design and talking through the pros and cons and actual annual income potentials for each one of these. So if that's made already, you can actually check that out right here. If it is not there yet, then there's a video that YouTube thinks that you might want to watch. So I will see you there.